Welcome back, everybody, to the Business of Writing. This is Joe Solari in Chicago.
Hi, this is Craig Martell, and my eyelashes froze this morning when I was taking my dog for a walk.
Ouch. Froze up or down?
It froze almost closed. I had to keep rubbing them to keep them so I could see. It's showing that it's only like minus 10 Fahrenheit out, but it's snowing, so it's kind of humid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant walk. Phyllis didn't even want to be out there. She had her coat on and her boots, and yeah, the happiest moment of the walk is when she gets her coat and boots off.
Yeah. Well, we've had to do that a few days here in Chicago. It's been that bad. So, not fun if you're a dog. Well, so today we were going to talk about mailing lists. Actually, you and I are doing a swap today for your new book. If you want to give it a plug,
you bet.
Let it rip.
Oh, the new plug, yeah.
Indeed.
Dark Landing, episode 3, Outlaws, hits today because if you're going to do space western, why wouldn't you have a train robbery? So there we go, Outlaws. And the first book, Assignment Dark Landing, is free today. So Dark Landing, if you do that search on that one word, Amazon, it'll pop right up because there are no other Dark Landings. And snag the first book for free and give it a look.
Cool. So, all right. So what we're going to do is talk about mailing lists today off of that subject. And you and I have some opinions on it, and I thought it'd be good to talk about that as well as get into some specifics about like what types of software to use, how to develop it, kind of different stages that you may go through as your writing career picks up to develop a list, and what you're really trying to get out of it. And I wanted to kind of preface this as I was at a conference. It was the Converted conference up in Minneapolis. You know, there's a lot of folks there that are talking about some really high-end conversion techniques. But interestingly enough, a big part of the topic was that email is still very important. Like, even though you hear a lot about it, you got to get people on Facebook Messenger and all this other stuff. There were guys there that were solely marketing on email. And I think it's critical with authors. Real value creation in the indie market, in my view, is that it's not just the disintermediation of taking out the layers of the publisher and all those folks. It's the author so much closer to the customer now, right? You probably get them today. You'll get emails from your fans, and you can answer them, and you can learn. You know, you're actively engaged with your beta group and your just-in-time readers, all that stuff. And that's where you're able to move people from just an occasional reader to a super fan. And I think the mailing list, if you do it right, is still going to be a critical part of that. Would you agree?
I think the main point is the connection with the readers. A newsletter is a tool, but that's a tool that will help you. Just like your blog, just like your social media, all of those are tools to connect with your reader, because all of those layers, as I was growing up, I couldn't imagine meeting Andre Norton or Robert Heinlein. But in today's society, we say where we're going. Hey, we're going to be in Vegas in November 6th to 8th. We'll be there, and we're going to do a book signing on November 8th in the afternoon. And so people can make it there and stop by and say hi and see us as we really are, wearing our Hawaiian shirts and shorts, because Vegas in November is like Fairbanks in the heart of summer. So it's shorts weather. That connection that you make, whether you use your blog or your Facebook or newsletter. And the thing about a newsletter is it's something that you can shoot out there, and you can broadcast it, and the newsletter providers give you data back saying who opened it and how many were opened, and that is a valuable tool for an indie, because you don't have to think about it. You send your newsletter, and then you just look at the data and then decide what you want to do from there. Like, if you have a 2% open rate, and you constantly have a 2% open rate. What the hell? So you're paying for 98% of your subscribers, and they're not giving you anything back. And it's not because you're doing a book. If you take a month of your life or 6 months of your life to write a book, it'd be nice if you could sell it. If you have subscribers that only want your stuff, if you're going to give it away for free, you shouldn't have to pay for those subscribers, just like they don't want to pay for your book. So let them go out there and search and try to find free books, not illegal downloads, mind you, but find free books and find authors that they can read that are willing to give them their books for free. Because for anybody who has a family to support, you really need to sell your books. Even if it's $2.99 or 99 cents, you still need to sell it and get something back for your time.
Well, and to that point, I've talked about the stuff that I can find out from my survey that I've actually got 30% of the people on my list. They don't even care about my books. They don't want to buy my books. All they want me to do is homework for them to find them more free books. And if they're prepared to read my free book and provide reviews early in my career as an advanced reader, that's great. That's a trade-off I'm prepared to make. But if all they want to do is read my book, and I just imagine them like they're just book hoarders. Like they're probably not even reading most of these books that they get.
Yeah. I talked to one person, downloads 10 to 20 free books a day. There's no physical way you can read that many books.
No,
so they're building up their to be read list as thousands of books.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, when we look at this, you have to have a tool, right? You have to have an email service provider. And one of the things that I think everyone should be kind of thinking about is when you're looking at these tools now, all of them are changing from just being like a newsletter provider to what they call marketing automation, right? So something like MailChimp, which you use, you've noticed the past year they've done things like integrated Facebook ads, and they've got automations. They're heavily focusing. Everyone's trying to link up to things like WooCommerce and Shopify for the people that are doing e-commerce. But on that point, that's a really powerful tool when you think about if you are going to start transitioning to something like doing Facebook ads. Having the ability to take that list that you've built and especially if these people are fans, moving that up into Facebook as an audience that you can advertise to. Now I use Drip, which takes it's a true marketing automation, and I kind of geek out with it. But it has functions where when tags change, I can move people in and out of Facebook audiences that are already created. So if I know that they're fans, I can start showing them ads earlier. Sometimes you don't even want to do something that's a call for action. There's no reason why you can't just send them an ad that's like, hey, thank you for buying my book. Like, it's a way to get that message out to them and build that audience up rather than always being like, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. Right? Like
that's actually I use that as part of my my pruning sequence. I'll send a rapid series of please buy my book, and it'll be a different book, but it's a rapid series of those, and I get a higher level of unsubscribes. And it's just a way. I've never pruned my list because I don't have to, and it's within a manageable monetary level right now.
Yeah, no, I have some active sequences that go through on my list. So again, like I get a little geeky about this, but if they haven't there's nobody on my list that hasn't opened their last 10 emails. Once they get to 9, it kicks them into a sequence that says, send me, I call the link a lifeline. Like you click here and you can stay on the list. If not, you're gone. And I also have it in there where if they do that twice, they go out no matter what, because they're They think they're going to miss out on something, but they're not actively engaging. And so there's some things you can do around that to kind of help you, so you're not spending a lot of time once you get these things set up. So I noticed you just had a post in the group. You'd done some kind of upgrades to your automations. You want to talk about that?
You bet. I try to keep it simple. I did a 3-step automation. I tout my business cards. Everything sends people to my website where people can sign up for my newsletter. It's you type in your email address and you click join, and then that takes you into MailChimp, that then sends you a first answer. And that first one is, hey, thanks for joining my email list. Here's a free short story. And then a day after that, hey, thanks for joining my email list. Here's something about Craig Martell, the author. And even though I have my backlist at the bottom, that second email is not a sales email, and neither is the first. And then the third one that comes, I think 7 days later, says, hi, this is me. I sell books for a living. Here's my starter library, $2.99 for 3 full-length books and a short story. The first book in 3 different series, and then a short story. So I give them that option, and it's $2.99, but it's a low entry point. So for $2.99, you're getting 300,000 words of stories, and that's just to weed out some of the people like, oh man, I don't know if I want to keep going here or not. But it's to let them know that I sell books. I don't. I'm not a book giver, because you can't be. You can't be. You can, but you can't make a living at it. You need to have a day job then.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that for all of us as authors, that's going to be important for us to do, is to, it used to be, I got a list of 15,000 people, and when people were like, oh, can I do a swap with you? And I think as we work forward, the better we get at like getting rid of the riffraff and knowing what your audience likes, then you can find like-minded authors that writing similar books and say, hey, we should do a swap because we have the right kind of customers that we want to get cross-pollinated. And there's not to say that, like, I've got one coming up, and it's with a woman out of England who writes historical fiction. And we're both like, we might not be the best fit, but it's like, okay, we'll give it a try. What's the worst that'll happen? We may lose some subscribers. Probably not. They just won't click.
Yeah. We did talking about that. We did a list builder with 10 of us like-minded science fiction, space opera authors, wrote short stories and put them into a single anthology underneath a nice cover. And we only promoted it on BookFunnel. We only promoted it to our lists. And we did some boosted posts on FB, but to a targeted audience of space opera readers. And we all gained about 2,000 new subscribers, but these are quality subscribers of our own who read this stuff and pay for it, and they're buying readers. And some have become fans, and some have bailed out. No, I just wanted my guy's story. I didn't want anybody else's, and that's perfectly fine. But the cost to get those subscribers was almost zero. Whereas some of the other costs, if you do Facebook to add subscribers, I paid $1 a name. My God, that's insane. You can't pay that kind of price to get subscribers.
No.
Michael Anderle and I did a quick cost analysis on gaining Amazon followers. We did various books. Hey, here's a book giveaway, and then do a boosted post targeting certain sectors. And if you did a book giveaway, it was about $0.05 for each person who follows you on Amazon. I did a Kindle Paperwhite, and I got it down to 1 penny per follower. So I paid about $150 between the Paperwhite and the ads on Facebook, and got 2,000 followers. And sure, there's going to be some overlap, and no, you have no idea about these followers. Amazon never fesses up. But I think the followers are so important, because when you have a new release, and especially somebody like me who has 1 to 3 new releases a month. This is Amazon doing the work. The email comes from Amazon and says, hey, Amazon new releases. I follow very few authors myself on Amazon, but I still get those. And I hate to say it, I look all through them when I get them.
Yeah.
See what's there.
See who's who and where they're at, Landon.
And those come, when I publish a book, the first day it's 99 cents. After that, it goes up to the normal price. So when Amazon sends it out, they don't send it out on that first day. It's anywhere from 5 days to a month later. So when people see it and buy it at that point, they're buying it at full price. So I know a lot of people are probably like me. They maintain $100, $200 credit at all times so they can one-click buy. And so you see something, hey, I like that. So make sure your cover is ace, your blurb is top-notch, and get those one-click buyers off your Amazon followers. Here's the magical, mystical newsletter that Amazon, because Amazon is they're experts at marketing. So let them handle it, but you have no idea. You can only guess. And I can guess by the number of buys and the nice bump I get starting at about 5 days.
Well, and there's a couple things you can kind of do to help kind of figure some of this stuff out. So, one thing is whether, and this is with any of them, create multiple lists so that you have an organic list that you're driving only from your book. So the back matter where somebody signs up, it goes and that goes into that list, and you know somebody that has bought a book. And if you are providing the same book free and on Amazon, I would suggest you make 2 different copies. I know it's a lot of work in the beginning, but it's going to help you down the road. The other thing you can do is, and I've done it with MailChimp and a couple of these other programs, is set up a thank you page after somebody signs up for your list. So like on your WordPress site, you would set up a thank you page and then hook that up to Google Analytics and create a goal conversion in Google Analytics for that thank you page. And then what it's going to do is it's going to track the way that came in. So you're not going to have a ton of information, but you'll at least know some more about, like, okay, this came from Amazon, this came direct organic, this came from Google search. So it's another way to just start getting some more data points, because I don't think the opacity of Amazon's ever going to change.
No, and that's something I don't do, Joe, and that's a great thing. And maybe after you edit this, you could put together a little cheater on here's how you do that for the folks out there like me who I don't do that. But that's a good segmenting the lists. This is so important, and this is something I didn't do in the beginning, but I do now. If somebody signs up from your back matter, from your book, that means they just finished reading your book. This person is gold, and they could become platinum if they if they're always buying. So make sure you know who these people are very, very specifically. And I turned off my video because my internet was getting bad.
No worries.
Because I live way the hell out here. But segmenting that list in MailChimp makes it so easy, and you can always integrate lists later. But your back matter fans, those are the ones that have the potential to be super fans, and those are the ones you want to know exactly who they are.
Yeah, and one thing that you made me think about, I would suggest to anybody that's watching this video, down in the comments, to use those comments to find other people that want to do a newsletter swap, just like you had mentioned with those 10 other authors. Just leave a comment and say, hey, I'm a romance writer. Hey, I'm a sci-fi writer. Who would like to do one of these? And I'll put something together too, at least for a group. And let's see if we can help some folks get those early lists going and do it at low cost.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads into, some of the other. Go ahead.
Let me address one question, because a lot of people say, I don't have my first book written yet, but I need to build my email list. My answer to that is no, you don't. if people have no idea what your writing looks like, you're getting very low quality subscribers. So you can run giveaways and get followers and do that stuff. But if you don't have a book published, wait. Patience is going to be your friend here. Sure, you're not going to get 10,000 sales on that first book the first day because you're not sending it out to 10,000 people because you don't have an email list. But if you're an unknown, it's better to get known. And that's what reader magnets, that's what those are about. A short story that's a representative sample of your writing. If you get somebody who likes your writing, that's the people you want on your newsletter list. And almost exclusively likes your writing and willing to pay for it. That is the optimal newsletter list. So that's what you're trying to build. If you're just saying, hey, I need 10,000 subscribers. No, you don't. No, you absolutely do not. I make an awful lot of money, and I have 3,400 total on my newsletter list. They're pretty engaged. They're good fans. I've got a goodly amount of Facebook followers, and I engage with them as much as possible. Not as much on my blog anymore because that's just looking at where my focus of effort and where I get the biggest payback for my time. Facebook, the social media, and then that newsletter. Nothing sells a last book like the next book. So I keep the people fed. I keep them, and I try to write every book better than the last. But keeping those folks on board, quality over quantity in this regard. Because if you have a 10,000 person list and you haven't published a book yet, you know what you're going to be paying for that? Your newsletter provider. And if you're publishing one book every 6 months, you're paying for those 10,000 people for 6 months. And if you're unknown and you get a 5% click rate, that'll be huge. And if you get a 1% sales rate, you're not even paying for your MailChimp, let alone making money for anything else. So quality over quantity when it comes to newsletter lists, I think, is critical. There are some people who have 100,000 person lists and just keep building and building and building. And in that case, 1% of 100,000 is a good number. But damn, that's expensive.
Yeah,
I like the 3,400 because I can engage with 3,400.
Yeah. So what I did with you had mentioned this earlier too. We had a conversation and you were like, you got to get a book out and figure out like if people actually want to read your shit. Right. So yeah, I got the first,
that's it, man.
You know, I knew I had the series in me. I got the first book out. It's at 99 cents. And I also give it away free on different platforms while I was building the list. And my plan is once I get through that series and I go to that being ready to be a box set, I'm going to squeeze in a novella that will become the free deal. And that first book is no longer going to be 99 cents. It's going to go to full price. Because it's people like it and they, you know, the feedback has been really good. But to your point, I needed to have something to get the ball rolling for myself to understand, like, do I suck and I shouldn't be writing? Because I got a lot of other stuff I could do, or two, you know, making sure I'm getting the right reader. And because, I'm writing steampunk, I'm looking for, it's a niche, right? And what's really interesting is once I tapped into that niche, and this gets back into like how I can work my newsletter, that's a community where like there's people that really, really live this stuff, right? So they're building things. When they get home from work, they dress up this way. And on weekends, when they go out with their friends, they go to these conventions, right? Like, so part of what I've been doing is reaching out to them through this surveying technique and saying, hey, what do you do? And I'll tell you, like, there's amazing stuff that they're doing that's become an inspiration to my writing, right? Like,
good.
Like there's this one guy in Canada who he owns a junkyard, and it's got this like laboratory built out of stuff that he found in the junkyard. And it's amazing. It's like a movie set. And I see cool. It's really cool. Like, and it's his hobby. It's like, and when you share that with the community that are like-minded, they're like, oh, that's really cool. Right. Like it just, that's part of that whole thing that, those are the people I want on my list.
Yeah.
Not some dude that's trying to see if he can hoard, 20 books in a day. We were going to talk a little. So some of the kind of the systems out there, we talked about newsletter swaps. We said you got to have a book. I mean, that's critical. What about, have you used like InstaFreebie or BookFunnel or BookSprout or?
I've used InstaFreebie a couple different times. One time, and this is where I did not segment, I imported these people directly into my main list, and it was at 1,500 or 2,000, and that was a horrendous mistake because it drove my open rate down. It increased my spam notifications because people will sign up, they'll get your book for free, and then they'll mark your newsletter as spam. Those sandy little buttholes. So just segment those people off and keep them and then kill that list. And the second one, I got 1,000 names, and I never even bothered importing them because of just the quality was so low. The numbers, trying to look at the quantity. Hey, if only 1%, that's still more. No, I didn't want to deal with them at all. I want to deal with people who have read my stuff and signed up because of that. And yes, I'm doing well enough that I can take that away. But I also have a business mind, and my business analysis says these extra 1,000 people wouldn't even pay my extra $5 that I'm going to pay MailChimp for these email addresses. So hell no.
Yeah, and I think that's, there's good and bad in what's happened with the independent publishing model. And like we said earlier, you can get really close to your customer. You can have a one-to-one relationship with them. But the industry and how it's promoted books in the earlier years, one of the things was the whole concept of a book for free. Like, this is a way for us to make that initial connection. And it still works. But then there's also this group around that's like, they may be voracious readers, and they figured out a way to like not even pay for a Kindle Unlimited membership, right? They're just going to sit on InstaFreebie and download and download and download. And, they're prepared for, the whole process of going through and like reading the first couple pages and seeing, oh God, this book is horrible. And then they only got another 300 books to go through. It's not like they're going to run out of stuff to read. So yeah, I think that's something you have to be careful with that. I do think, I used it too, and I've run some InstaFreebies. I still have, I think, 2 or 3 running right now. But I then run them through a sequence that basically does kind of like what you were talking about doing, is I kind of assault them with emails to identify if they're really interested or not. And also to promote what I want. It's like, if I gave you a free book, I want a review. Yeah. Yeah. And like, so I bug them. Like, I bug them like, hey, if you, and it, if you didn't give me, if I don't see that tag go on that you've clicked through to the review, a couple of days later, you get another email. And I hope that either they review or they're like, I can't take it anymore, and just unsubscribe.
Yeah, yeah. And that's something I didn't do with InstaFreebie, because there's a lot of people who've gotten great readers off InstaFreebie because they were out there looking for their next favorite author. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to say I personally won't use it again. The automation sequence following is a great way to cull that list. But also your newsletter provider, you got to take care, because MailChimp will cancel your account if you get too many spam reports.
Yep.
Because they will not support a spammer. And even if you're not, if you come across this one, you are one in their mind. So
yeah, well, and they're protecting their email because they're distributing millions and millions and millions of emails, right? So
yes.
Well, and a kind of an anecdotal story here. I had a guy come through InstaFreebie, and he wrote me back. He's like, "Yeah, I really love your book. It's it's what I've been looking for reading. Blah blah blah." And he left me a really nice review. And so I sent him the next book. I sent him a copy. I'm like, "Hey, here's the next book, and it's right now it's $2.99, but here's a gift from me to you. I really appreciate it. It was a really kind." Review. and that you and I kind of early risers. That was like he was in Europe, and so it was like 5:30 in the morning. He wrote me at 11. He wrote me back, "Hey, I just left your review for your other book." So, again, that gets back to that whole thing about it's not about the mailing list. It's about establishing one-to-one relationships.
Yes.
Right. And hopefully that relationship with this particular reader continues, because that's what I'm, I would rather a list of 700 of those than 3,000 of whoever.
Yeah. Waiting for your next list of freebies.
Yeah. Yeah. So we kind of touched on a couple points about talking about cleaning your list. If you are, I know there's a lot of folks out there that have pretty big lists, and they may be thinking, ooh, maybe I should go back and scour this thing. Most of these programs, I know certainly MailChimp. I've never used MailerLite, so I can't really comment on it. I use Drip, and my wife uses MailChimp, and I'm the tech guy here, so I'm pretty good with it. I know MailChimp, you can run all kinds of inactivity segmentation.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think you can do it automatically in it. I think you'd have to segment that and then send them an email.
And that's one thing, MailChimp, and I think all email providers, whatever your email system, you can say don't send read receipts and things like that. So I assume if I get a 50% open rate and I have a certain group that looks like they're not opening, because my brother's email is that way. I'll send him an email and it'll say he doesn't open anything I send him, but I know he does. So you don't want to just call people, give them a chance. Like you said, you have your automation set up where it gives them a chance to sign in, say, no, I want to keep getting your email. And that could be their system is just a virus protected and blocked in such a way that your email provider doesn't get a read receipt that they opened your email. So keep that in mind as well for a blank calling. Give them a chance, even if it's only one email. Hey, to my system, it looks like you're not opening the emails. It's expensive to maintain this email. So if you'd like to stay in, click here. If not, do nothing and have a great life. See you on the flip side.
Well, I haven't had it with my list, but with a different company that was helping them get their digital marketing sorted out, and we were going through their list, and we did a process like this, and we ended up getting rid of. They had a pretty big list, 700-800 people, but we also had a lot of people that were like, "Oh, I really don't check this email that much anymore. Put me onto this list." Right. And that's the other thing, especially MailChimp's good with this, is you can put in a link where you can, and that letter, that email you'd send out and say, hey, it's been fun, but maybe we shouldn't keep, maybe it's not you, it's me. You can put a link in there where they can update their settings. And maybe that's something they just need to do is like, okay, because if you're like me, I've got a ton of email addresses.
And we go back to our main point is that connection with the reader. If you're a blogger and you blog every single day, then maybe you don't need an email list. If you can send people to your communication device, you can't. This isn't the old days where your traditional publisher will shove your book down everybody's throat. You have to do that yourself as a self-published author. So the way you do that, there are a lot of different varieties. Email is an easy way, but it's also a hard way because you've got to collect those email addresses, make sure you segment them so you know who's who. You want your super fans collected and organized and kept in a nice gold-laced bag, and keep those people fed well. Give them a chance to be your ARC readers if you do ARCs. I do not, because I have such a great group of super fans now that we get reviews right away, and that's good enough. Like I was at 94 reviews on my last book, Blockade. It had been out for a month, And so, hey, 94 reviews in a month, pretty good. Well, I'm like, hey, what's it going to take to get to 100? And in one day, they gave me 6 extra reviews, and we got it to 100. So they're out there. Know who your super fans are. Even if it's just you have a 100-person list of your super fans. Hey, guys, here's what one thing I do is I ask for names. Hey, I need some character names for this. And I put that in my author notes at the end. Hey, thanks, Stacy, for offering this name. Here's a scene. And I share that and keep them engaged. And that's another way. My goodness, use names of your fans and put them into your books. And it helps. And also it takes some pressure off trying to come up with names. I'll put a post up, hey, I need a name in an hour. I want to keep this scene going. And I'll get 40 different comments and 100 different names. So that's a nice laundry list. And I just find one that seems to fit with the flow, because you don't want one that's unpronounceable or one that's overused. So you take a look and select from one of those and give them a shout out. Hey, thanks for this. You're in the book.
Cool.
All ways to connect with your readers. And that is the flexibility of being a self-published author. It's us directly with the readers. Sure, we go through Amazon. If you're wide, you're going through iTunes. It is, or iBooks, I'm sorry. It is your opportunity to keep those readers cultivated and grow. Because if they're telling your friends, hey, have you heard about Joe Solari? Well, who's he? Because still, if I've got 10,000 readers, that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. There are a billion readers of English. 10,000 is almost nothing. And there's a lot of people out there, oh, God, I'd love to have 10,000 readers. But as an indie, getting that visibility and getting over that hump, that's the ongoing challenge. And if you get people like my dad, he is Jonathan Kellerman. He reads every Jonathan Kellerman book. And so, but now my dad is my biggest fan. So he'll tell people, hey, he'll be at a garage sale. He gave my business card out at an estate sale because they had books. And he goes and he thumbs through the books. He's like, oh, there's none by Craig Martell. And somebody's like, oh, who's he? Hey, sci-fi author. Here, have a business card. So, oh my God, my dad is my biggest fan, and I love that.
That's cool. Yeah, and I the other one is you need a book. Like, and I don't think it's not just a mailing list. I think that somebody that's aspiring to be an author, and you get involved in, the 20 books group or some of these other things, you can start to get overwhelmed by all the different messages. Like, I should be running these ads, and I should be doing this, and I should be this. Like, no, you need a book.
Yep.
The reality is if you're going, you need a catalog, right? Like, you need to get books out. I've noticed it, how just the launch of a book does more for other book sales than any of the money I've been throwing at those books. It's just, they just keep building on each other. And so focus on that. Focus on getting those books ready to go and out, and think about that stuff. And not worry about the butterflies of building a list for when you launch, right? Like, that first book, if you follow what I did, it's like that first book is the test balloon for, if you suck, it's going to be your reading magnet, and it's going to start generating sales. You're not going to get rich. It's the start of the business. Go write the second book. Go write the third book, right? And then, like, you can always go back, like I'm going to do, and rejigger the economics of the series. But along the way, I can do these other things because I have a book, right? A list, like you said, is just money to MailChimp or one of these other companies, because, so for e-commerce businesses, they figure for every 10,000 names you have on a list, that's $1 million in sales you can generate. That's not the case for indie authors, though, right?
No, because our products our margin is much, much less.
Yeah, so we have good margin,
but we don't have high profitability of our products.
Yeah, And it's a lower price point. And the other thing is it's really easy to build a list because of how we've made, this whole perverse world of where people will give you their email for a free book. So you can't buy into those kind of rules of thumb in this world. The mailing list is never, ever, ever going to trump good content.
The story first.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good story, you will have significant challenges in selling it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, we kind of got a late start today, so we probably should get wrapped up and get back to all the other stuff on our to-do list. Based on my clock, I think the mailing list or mine has gone out. So
good to go. Good to go. Mine. I'm waiting on one more link because one of my Age of Expansion book that Jan Chaney Cernofsky wrote, excellent fourth book in the series, and that one, it's in the publishing process right now, but needs some loving. I need that link from Amazon so I can put that into my newsletter and then launch it because today is launch day for that book.
Cool.
And that's it. Otherwise, mine's good to go as well.
Awesome. Well, you have a great day, and we'll talk next week.
Peace, Joe. Thank you, man.
Later.